hospital that's dear to all of our hearts. So many of us have had treatment there, and we wanted to be able to have the opportunity to donate our time and to assist with the fundraising, basically. So there's a lot of misconceptions about wills and a lot of questions that people have that perhaps they don't like to ask. So today I'm just going to do a bit of a whistle-stop tour about what wills are and why we should bother, because I think one of the main things people say is, well, why do I need one? I'm not a multimillionaire, what's the point? And I'm very strongly of the view that everybody should have a will. So fundamentally, what is a will? It's a document that you put in place during your lifetime that only has effect once you've passed away. And it allows you to appoint somebody that we call an executor to deal with your estate after you pass away. So that means that somebody is immediately empowered to look after everything that's in your name. So it might be bank accounts, it might be house, it might be investments, stocks and shares, all of your personal effects, your personal property. And the executor will carry out all of the legal functions to make sure that all of those assets are properly accounted for and that they're distributed in accordance with your wishes. So when you're appointing your executor, it can be anybody you choose. And it can be a friend or a family member. It could be a professional like a solicitor or an accountant. And most importantly, I think something people don't realise is it can be somebody who benefits in your will. So it doesn't have to be somebody entirely separate. It can be the people who are receiving gifts under your will as well. So the appointment of the executor is hugely important, picking the right person, the person that you want to deal with things. But then the second important element of the will is who gets what, really, in layman's terms, picking your beneficiaries. And in English law, we've got what's called testamentary freedom. So you've got huge freedom to do whatever you want in your will. And this means that you have the opportunity to think not just about family or friends, but you can also think about charities in your will. And a lot of charities rely very heavily on gifts that are left by people in their wills. I think at the last major count, it said that many charities rely up to 1/5 of their annual income comes from gifts in wills. And for animal charities, it's even more. Some of them rely up to 50% of their annual income for gifts from wills. So it's really important to think about, what do I have? Who do I want to deal with these things for me? And who do I want to benefit ultimately? And as I say, you've got huge flexibility in doing that, and it allows you to really think about the different people in your lives and their personal circumstances. And a properly tailored will that's put together by a professional means that all of your wishes are expressed in a legally binding way, and that you're able to benefit the people you want to benefit in the way that's right for them. So if you don't have a will, if you don't get round to putting one in place and you pass away, that results in what we call an intestacy. And that means that you don't have any choice at all as to what happens. So you don't have an executor, so you don't have anybody who's immediately empowered to deal with your affairs. You will have what's called an administrator, and that means that there is a strict pecking order of who can apply to have authority to deal with your affairs. So that might not be somebody that you want to deal with things. It might not be somebody who you've had a good relationship with, or it might be somebody who doesn't have a good relationship with the people who you want to benefit. And all of those things can cause problems. And we do see problems in practice as a result of this. So once the administrator has made the application, your estate would then be administered, so divvied up, as it were, amongst very specific groups of people. And that can cause really unexpected problems for people. In particular, I'm thinking, for example, if your estate is only up to a certain value and you're married, your children will get nothing, your spouse will get everything. And you might think, well, that's not a problem, that's what I would want anyway. But if you factor in people have perhaps a second marriage or a third marriage, sometimes even a fourth marriage, and along the way you may have had children from previous relationships, what you can find is that the current spouse will receive everything on your death, and your children from the previous relationships will receive nothing at all. And that's not always what you want. It can cause a lot of friction within families, and that can then result in people going off to court and incurring all those costs and all of the bad feeling that comes with that. The other element of that is we have a lot of people who still believe in the old adage of a common law wife or a common law husband, where you've lived together as man and wife or as the same-sex partners for many, many, many years. You've always treated each other as spouses, but you're not legally married or in a legal civil partnership. And what happens if one of you passes away then is that the other one doesn't get an entitlement to anything at all without having to make a claim against the estate and going through the court. And in those circumstances, when somebody's lost a partner of many years, they're then put in a position where perhaps their house is not even secure anymore, they don't have the funds that they need to continue, and they're having to make an application to court. It's so very stressful at a time when you don't need that sort of stress. So it's really, really important to sit down with a professional, look at all of your personal circumstances and the personal circumstances of the people in your life, and have a look at how can we tailor things to make sure that everyone who you want to look after is looked after properly. And we want to try and minimise any risk of people having to bring claims against your estate after you've passed away, because that just results in a lot of cost and just such a lot of bad feeling. It's just something that we really do need to avoid. So if you are deciding to make a will, and a lot of people take a long time to get around to deciding it, but once you've decided to make a will, you make an appointment with a solicitor to sit down and discuss it. You need to be as candid as you can be. Tell us everything about yourself, and your solicitor will want to know all about you and the assets that you have, the people in your life, and what it is that you want to do with your funds. And then we will tailor things to make sure that your wishes are carried out. And we can put quite a wide range of different legal aspects into your will to allow you to look after people who otherwise might have difficulties receiving large chunks of money in an intestacy. So I'm thinking in particular about, you might not want your children to inherit at 18. You might think maybe they'd be a bit more sensible at 21. Maybe they'd be a bit more sensible at 25. You might have a relative who's suffering with addiction difficulties or severe mental health issues, who is very vulnerable, who could be preyed upon by other people if they received a large amount of funds in their own name. And those are circumstances where we can word your will in such a way to ensure that these individuals receive the benefit of the funds, but none of the risk that goes along with it. The other thing that we can do, and if I hark back to the idea of blended families, and you've got second marriages or third marriages, is we can tailor your will to ensure that your second wife or third husband or whoever it is looked after and housed and has an income throughout their lifetime, but that the underlying capital in your estate, so the value of your house or your bank accounts, is actually kept and protected for your children in the long term. So that then gives all the various people in your life the security that they need, and you know that ultimately who you want to benefit from your hard work during your lifetime is actually going to happen. So that's the reason why we're involved with the charity. That's the reason why we think you should have a will, and I would encourage everybody to look into it and make that phone call and make an appointment to come down and put a will in place. And you can ask whatever questions you want to ask to your solicitor. No question is stupid. We will have heard it all before. Everybody has a different circumstance. We've seen all sorts of different things. So ask freely anything that you need to know, and we'll be able to guide you then to make sure that the decisions you're making are going to fit and work for you in the long term.
Thank you so much, Faye, for that really informative information about what a will is, what a difference it will make to people, and why it's so important people get involved. As Faye has alluded to, churches are kindly taking part in our Make a Will month. So throughout October, you can phone up churches, book yourself an appointment, and then for a minimum donation fee, you can then raise money for Portsmouth Hospital's charity, also get your will in place, and you can go and talk to the lovely people at Churches as well. You can find out more information about that on our website and also underneath this recording as well. So thank you so much, Faye, for doing this today, and thank you for everyone to watching, and we look forward to another successful Make a Will month in October.